All right. So we talked a little bit last time I was on with you about Peter Rabbit and how that was one of the books my kids absolutely love to read in the spring. And so I shared some ideas to go along with the book, The Tale of Peter Rabbit. And we talked a little bit then about how some things that are old have value and some things that are old don't have value. And you had lots of great comments about that. I think Marcia said old means wisdom. Well, I hope so. And some things, have value like antiques, and then other things don't. But some older books do have, I think, great value. This one is an older book, of course, you can tell by the illustrations, but it still packs a powerful punch with little kids. The only thing in this book, I think, if I remember correctly, is the dad is smoking a pipe. Yes, there's one picture where the dad is holding a pipe in his hand. Most kids don't even realize that because it's not in his mouth, it's in his hand, and they don't say anything. And if they ask what it is, I say, oh, that's interesting. I'm not going to explain what pipe smoking is, but oh, there he is. He's holding it in his mouth in one picture, so they might notice that. But that's the only thing. And if your kids are anything like my kids, some of them will say, oh, that's bad. And then other kids will say, my dad smokes. So just know that going into it. And this is a book I know a lot of you have read before, but I love using this book in the spring to introduce the concept of things that grow, because it's really fun to listen to preschoolers tell you what they think will happen to the carrot seed in this story. So many of you know that the carrot seed, little boy plants a carrot seed. It's not like beautiful full color illustrations, but the message comes across just fine. It's very simple, but the whole time while you're reading the book, the way that it's written, the kids are guessing, is it going to grow? The little boy planted a carrot seed. His mother said, I'm afraid it won't come up. And I love reading the words of the characters, because you can ask the kids, what does she mean it won't come up? What is she talking about? And you can talk about how some plants grow from the ground, right? And how some grow on trees and so forth. So that leads to a great discussion. His father said, I'm afraid it won't come up. And so then, what does his big brother say, right? And you can go on like that. And kids love to get in on this. And they go, it won't come up. And they'll shout at and the funny thing is that the little boy never talks. And so they're like, why isn't he saying anything? And I said, I don't know. And when we get to the end of the story, then I'll ask them, why do you think he didn't say anything? And sometimes some kids will say, because he knew that it would. They talk about what the little boy does. Every day he pulls up the weeds, he sprinkles the ground with water. And then I ask the kids again, do you think it will come up? But nothing came up. So as we read the story, and it talks about, so if you're going to plant anything with kids, this is a great story to read, because several pages say, and nothing came up. So it kind of gives them the idea that it's going to take a while, that they have to wait, and nothing comes up. See, it goes on and on. But every day he still pulled up the weeds and sprinkled the ground with water. And then one day, so they kind of get the idea. The whole story is about being patient, giving it what it needs, despite all the negativity coming in around him, saying it won't come up. Jennifer says, I have that one. I'm so glad you reminded me. That I love that book. Yes, the sign behind me is from a famous movie, in case you're not. There we go. Okay. If we have any connectivity issues, you can always refresh your browser and you'll come right back. I was saying the sign behind me is from a famous movie. It's a quote from a famous movie. So if it's not grammatically correct, that's why. Michelle is here from Canada. Welcome. Okay, I was reading a comment when we froze up a minute ago. Lynette says she loves this book. Sulema from the Teaching Tribe is here. Hi, Sulema. Okay, I guess I caught it. I think some of the, maybe a comment or two got swallowed when we froze up. Okay, so that's my first book. I always start with this book. So anytime we start a study of spring, I start with this book because it lets them know that we have to be patient and wait and wait and wait. Another thing you can do after you read this book is have kids brainstorm other times when you have to wait a long time for something. And we might make a list, we might turn it into a literacy opportunity, make a chart, and what other times do you have to wait? And once the kids start brainstorming, they get on a roll. So let's say Caden says, when we go to the doctor, we always have to wait for a long time. And so I might write Caden, and then waiting at the doctor's office. And then someone else might say, oh, when we go to the restaurant, that's always a long time. Or when we, and then they'll list things where they have to wait. And it's a great opportunity for all kinds of things besides literacy, concepts of print, and obviously all those good things. But I love to introduce the spring unit with the carrot seed. And then after the carrot seed, and every library in the United States has this book. They have to. I would think it's a classic. But this one looks like it came from Scholastic. The next book that I love is Growing Vegetable Soup. So after we've talked about carrots and the carrot seed and growing, sorry about the glare there, I like to read Growing Vegetable Soup by Lois Ehlert. And she is a fabulous author that we get into a lot in the spring because she has a lot of books on this topic. And her illustrations, they're great springboards for open-ended art because she uses really interesting methods to create her illustrations. But this particular book I like to read because after we've talked about the carrots and how we plant and we grow, and you might read some other gardening books as well, do you see how her illustrations are really, they're beautiful? There's a whole, you can look her up online and see how she makes these. I'm not an art expert by any means, but there's information out there. We'll make vegetable soup. So I have a post at Pre-K Pages that Tom will drop a link to for you below. And it's about making vegetable soup in the classroom in a crock pot if you're allowed. Some of you may be allowed and some of you may not be allowed. But it's super easy. It doesn't involve a lot of work on anyone's part. It's very simple. Vegetable soup isn't a fancy thing to make by any means. I'm not a cook. I'm not a good cook by any stretch of the imagination, but making vegetable soup is something I can do. I don't promise the kids a gourmet experience. They're not eating at Wolfgang Puck. They're in the classroom and they can taste it. And it's so funny because when we make vegetable soup and they're involved in preparing it, anytime we make anything in the classroom, it's so funny because like most all of the kids will try it. And some of them will like it. And then I tell them at the end of the day, when you go home today, what are you going to tell your mom and dad that you did in school? What's that one thing that we did today? Did we make something? We did. We made vegetable soup. And so the next day, I have parents usually that will come in and they'll say, Caden said something weird last night. He said that he ate vegetable soup at school and he liked it. He's never eaten a vegetable in his life. What did you do? And I'm like, it was called peer pressure. So yeah, it's usually pretty funny. Most kids will eat vegetable soup when they make it. Not all kids, that's okay. I was probably one of the kids who wouldn't eat it if I made it, but that's a good one. So check out the recipe at Pre-K Pages. It's really classroom friendly if you're allowed to have a crock pot. And if you have cooking facilities, that's great too. I get a lot of requests. And when I say a lot, I'm talking about like several every week from people looking for multicultural books to meet the ECHRS, the Early Childhood Environment Rating Scale, which a lot of programs in the US adhere to. And they're always asking for and these folks are always looking for multicultural books because it's on the rating scale. And the good thing about multicultural books is that it's 2017 and everywhere you go, you see multicultural picture books now. Back in the day, we didn't have as many to choose from, but now just about anywhere you go, you can usually find them. So I do have a book list over at Pre-K Pages. I forgot to give Tom the link, but I think I do have a book list there with books about cultures or diversity or something, but the list is so long. I mean, these days there's so many. This one is called Lola Plants a Garden by Anna McQuinn. And I love Anna McQuinn's books. She has this character named Lola. Oh, my phone never goes off during broadcast, but I'm on my computer tonight. So Lola is a character, and she appears in many books that Anna McQuinn writes. And I love them because they're very pre-K appropriate. And it shows her family. She interacts with her parents and her siblings in the books. And this one obviously is about Lola planting a garden. There's Lola visits the library, and there's all different kinds. Lola loves her book of garden poems. Her favorite poem is the one about Mary Mary. This is a great book because in my class we do nursery rhymes all year long, and so my kids will make that instant connection if we've already done Mary Mary quite contrary to the rhyme. So I love, love, love the Lola series by Anna McQuinn. So if you get the whole series, you got a good collection, not huge, but you got some multicultural books, but really there's so many out there. And I do have a list somewhere over at Pre-K Pages I can share with you. It just bothers me that Eckers requires that. It's almost like they think we're idiots. We wouldn't already do that. I mean, who wouldn't provide multicultural books for their kids? So, Planting a Rainbow. I told you that Lois Ehlert was a very prolific author for spring, and this is another one of her fabulous books here. Again, using that wonderful art technique. My friend Cindy is an art appreciation expert. She's not here right now, but if she was, she would tell me how Lois Ehlert created these illustrations. And this one is, it's got a lot of colors in it, and what I love, I think the kids always love most too, is each page they have these little flaps back here, and they do all the colors, and it kind of just talks about all the different vegetables, and this is another great springboard to lead into planting. And so that's Planting a Rainbow by Lois Ehlert. So far we've talked about The Carrot Seed by Ruth Krauss, Growing Vegetable Soup by Lois Ehlert, Planting a Rainbow by Lois Ehlert, Lola Plants a Garden by Anna McQuinn, and two of my favorites I could not find tonight. One of my absolute all-time top favorites is The Enormous Carrot, and it's along the lines of The Enormous Turnip, which is a very famous folk tale, and everyone's trying to pull out the enormous turnip, so it's got a message of teamwork in there too. So The Enormous Turnip, and it's by Vladimir somebody, and I can't remember his last name. But if you look it up, but it's not available anymore. I couldn't find it on Amazon. I have a copy of it somewhere, but I can't find it. And the other one is called Grow, Flower, Grow. And I don't know the author of that one. It was like a Scholastic book that came out one year, and I loved it. I bought it, read it. It was my kids' like #1 favorite book of the year, aside from No David and Pete the Cat and all that. And then it vanished off the face of the earth, and I couldn't find it again. And they republished it under another name, and I bought like 20 copies. Well, I can't find it, but it's hilarious because it's about what this little girl does to this plant because she doesn't know what makes it grow. She gives it pizza and spaghetti, and the kids are laughing. And then finally she gives up after giving it all this food, and she throws it out the window where it sits outside in the sun and the rain because it never grew when she was giving it pizza and spaghetti. And then it starts to grow. So it's really funny. Kids can relate to it because she's doing something she shouldn't. She's like stuffing food in this cup of dirt. It's hilarious. But I couldn't find my copy, and it doesn't exist on, as far as I know, on Amazon. I was not able to find it. Oh, Lisa Bruce. Do you think Lisa Bruce was the author of Grow, Flower, Grow? I wish I knew how to get a hold of that book again. Megan, I'll make sure that we drop a link afterwards for you for the multicultural books. Yes, Debbie, I'm a huge nursery rhyme advocate. Go to Pre-K Pages. I have a whole page about it. I have a webinar about it. I have all kinds of nursery rhyme resources. I'm a nursery rhyme and fairy tale nut. So Hey, Christine from New Jersey. Kimber is here. She says, I love your ideas. Thanks, Kimber. Um, Tracy says she read this book to her class. I'll have to rewind to see what book you were talking about because I'm going backwards now. And they planted seeds in small pots. One of the pots sprouted a day or two later, and one of them is just beginning to sprout now, a week later. The kids are loving it. Yes. So go over to, Tom will drop a link, I'm sure he already has, to all the spring posts at Pre-K Pages. And I have a post about growing grass with kids. Sounds boring, right? We always say watching the grass grow is so boring. Not in preschool. Watching the grass grow is the most exciting thing you'll do all year. So I have a post about growing grass because it grows really fast. So even though we read the book, The Carrot Seed, and they get the lesson about how long it takes to grow a seed, it doesn't really translate into real life patience. So growing grass is really quick and easy. Then growing or planting a beanstalk or a bean, lima bean, we always do that. There's a post about that there. There's one about raising butterflies. All of that's over at Pre-K Pages. Sarah says she just got that book. I'm reading that tomorrow to my class. Yay, I'm so glad. Kendra says that quote from The Help were her classroom rules one year. Hi, Olabisi. All right. I don't want to get too off track. Okay. So I hope that you can take this mini book list. I have many book lists over at Pre-K Pages. I have a book list for just about everything. So if you go to Tom, if you go to pre-kpages.com/category/book-lists, you'll find all of the book lists there. And I know I have a spring book list, and some of these books are on that list. So we talked about some of my favorite books that you can reserve at your library right now, and all the posts I have over at Pre-K Pages to go along with that. I'm sure there's some printables in those posts as well. So if you liked these tips and you found them helpful, I hope you'll do me a favor and share this broadcast in any way that you see fit, whether that's by tapping the screen, saving it, sharing it on your own timeline so you can find it again, whatever you want. I would appreciate that if you know anyone who would also like these ideas as well. And if you want to know more about how you can save time, teach better, and live more, then you'll want to check out my membership site at The Teaching Tribe. We're currently closed to new members, but if you put your name on the waiting list, Tom will drop a link for you below, then you'll be notified as soon as we open membership again. We only open a few times a year though, so you have to make sure that you give us your best email because you don't want to get the email a month after we've closed the doors and be really bummed. All right. So thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to tune in on every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm Vanessa Levin, and I will see you again Wednesday for our regularly scheduled broadcast. Thanks, guys. Bye. I lost my finish button. There we go. Bye.